And good morning, everybody. Good morning, Andy.
Hey, good morning, Mike. It's
I go ahead. Sorry.
it's contest season. I'm
It
looking
is.
out the window this morning in Toronto. It's dull, gray, rainy, and cool.
I was just going to say, I actually love StreamYard. If you're doing any video, I tested this out for about 90 seconds a long time ago, and then went and bought the commercial version of it. And it just makes me look better at doing this than I probably really am. But I have to admit, just to give them a shout out, for me to invite people like Andy or another guest to the program is a no-brainer. And I've had people use their phone, their PC, their Mac. In fact, Gerald, our CEO, our first guest, he doesn't use a computer. He only uses an iPad with a keyboard, and he was boom right on. So it's a good product.
Yeah, it's quite easy to start. I think this is maybe my second time using it, and worked out well.
We are going to talk a bit about the contest this weekend. Good morning, Arnie. What's up early in the morning? Well, low band 160 meter stuff is up. Maybe you worked into the Pacific on 40 during gray line. Well, you're in 5 lanes, so you probably still have that going on. And that's what Arnie was saying. I'll post a couple of things here. Hi, Mike. I recognize that name. Actually, I recognize a lot of them. And I really recognize this name. Hey, Dave, I guess you're back home and grounded. And Dave, I think Dave's done a bit of driving around. Actually, he's done a lot of driving around. Dave, you know what? And we got to be careful now what we say because Dave's going to audit me. No, just kidding. Kevin. So we hope to work you in the morning, Kevin, on the low bands. Are you going to be on the contest? A nice New Zealand contact would be nice. And there's Mr. VE3 Hotel Gulf from your neighbor, Andy, just a town, not quite a township. What do you want to call it? He's over in Oakville. So, and
Peter.
Yeah, I know Peter's up early watching cycling because he told everybody. And so this just came about at the last minute. But last night I'm driving up here to the cottage, and and Ranko, you're going to like what we're doing. So we're going to talk about running a multi-station with a 6600 and PGXL and a 2x8 antenna switch. Now that's an amazing station to have, but you don't have to have it to do all that. But hey, Ryan and Kevin's going to be on with his 6600M. So from the other side of the globe, you're about antipodal to me. One of those few long words I actually know. So we were talking about the contest, and Andy had a couple of options, and I was going to do a multi-single from the club. And I like this contest, and I have just wire antennas and a 3-band or a 3-element stepper. Nothing super special, except maybe on 40 where I've got the ability to have a couple of extra wires for a directional 40-meter antenna. So then I came in and had to heat the place up because we're only heated by a wood stove. And I'm thinking about it. I go, geez, Andy and I should do a multi-2. So that got us talking. And then, so we'll talk about that near the end of the broadcast. But let's talk a little bit about some of the key things if you're going to do the contest this weekend that I think you need to look at. First off is by now all your antennas are done. Friday afternoon at 6 is not the best time to be putting up that new antenna, but I'm guilty. It's also not the best time to making sure N1MM is updated or you haven't tested it if you're using N1M. And apparently 49% of you do use N1MM as a logging program. And every other logging program is under 3% of install base or user base, including N3FJB.
FJP, yeah.
FJP, and then and that's the next one, and then they just drop down into nothing. So we'll talk about N1MM. You've installed it, you've updated it, you've updated your country file. That's a must do. And these are now, used to be you had to download it and install it in a certain directory. The N1MM guys are doing a great job. You just go get the country file. I think it's under tools, drop down, and away you go. And then the next, and I say you also want to make sure you automate stuff, but it's too late to get that going. Now you just want to get the radio dialed in. And the one thing that drives me crazy at times is mic audio. And this is not the time to sound like Venus Flytrap on WKRP. You need to be crisp. And a good example is, I'm sure Andy sounds a little brighter than I do on the broadcast. Now, he's wearing a Jabra headset. Not that saying you should be using a Jabra headset, but you could remotely with Smart SDR because it's a mic input. But they do a very good job of Plantronics and Jabra or whatever of making good communication quality mic elements. So he's a little bright. You don't hear any bottom end. You don't hear him breathing. And that's really important. And we were mucking around it. And here's a good example. So here's my desk mic. And I think I sound pretty good here. That's what we decided, right? But
yep, that's good.
If I turn it sideways, I think the highs disappear and I go a little muddy. And then off to the back, strange things happen a little bit because this mic has its focus off the front. But then when I went and did it off here, it said it really sounded bad. I have no idea what it sounds like, so I'm going to go listen to it after the broadcast. But to show you how important having your mic set up correctly, and the advantage with the Flex stuff is you can listen to yourself with by putting the radio in full duplex on all the 6000 series. And you can go read about that, or watch about it. There's a video on using full duplex to set up your mic. Andy, anything you wanted to add to that? Because you've copied signals. I've copied QRP signals where the guy's no problem. I pulled him right to the noise, and he's 5 watts on a buddy pole.
You made a couple of good points there, Mike. And yeah, it would be cool to sound like Venus flytrap, but at the same point in time, great audio on 75 meter phone on Sunday night. That's one thing, but contesting audio, that's something altogether different. So in addition to using the Flex, using full duplex, taking advantage of that and listening to yourself, you want to take a couple of moments within N1MM, if you're going to use the voice gear, to make sure that your messages are nice and crisp. They're going to load up. You understand where those messages are in terms of point and click. If you're going to take some time on anything, take some time on that. Make sure the audio on those messages is nice and crisp, and as Mike mentioned, bright. If you're using that, capability in N1MM, and you're going to use it for calling CQ, make sure that your call is going to jump out amongst the others, amongst the din. And Mike, let's talk a little bit about how you would go about with a 6600, for example, setting that audio up, and some of the tips for folks that are going to do that.
So we are going to share my screen, and I'm going to show first what a Maestro panel looks like. And yes, we'll ignore the N1MM message, but we were playing with stuff earlier. So if you're mixing your audio here, this needs to be enabled. This is a panel from a 66 or from a M model or a Maestro. This needs to be enabled. And don't just push stuff up, also push stuff down. If you're not bright enough, it doesn't mean, meaning the 1 or 2K sliders need to be a bit higher. If you're not bright enough, then first drop down the bottom end, because it also means if you may have too many bottoms. I'm not an audio mixer by any means, and I'm sure we've got some great people that are part of this group that are really good at it, but down mix first, and then up mix as required. And you can hear the difference on that. So I see some customers' radios, where everything's pushed at the top. Well, all you did was really increase the mic gain and totally undo the radio or overdrive the radio. So those are things to be certainly aware of. And then bandwidth. And that's why I brought Smart SDR up, Andy, so we can talk about bandwidth. You want to mention that as well? The high and low cuts?
High and low cut filters are going to be key here as well. And I think as you understand the capabilities of the Flex, use those to your advantage. Pull down the high end a little bit. If you're, pardon me, if you're new to contesting, or if you're new to pileups, you're going to find very quickly that the Flex has got lots of ability there and to chop away the bottom end if you're not going to be having that chat on 75 meters on Sunday evening, and you want to pull that station out of the pileup. Start to think about being able to use those filters to cut high and low on the receiver.
Okay, I'm just going to kill my smartest there.
As you see, there's some filters that are preset there, 1.8 right through to 3 and 6. So when we typically go into a sideband contest, you probably want to choose by default the 2.1 or 1.8, but you have the ability now to customize that. So it's not like you're constrained to those presets at all, and you have the ability to shift the center of that as well.
Right. Absolutely. And if you listen to, if you just, you'll hear some people that just they're just brighter. They just stand out. Anybody who's been on a de-expedition or the receiving end of a pileup will tell you, don't bother using a processor or a compressor if you happen to be using an SDR or a non-SDR radio, and don't watch your watt meter. And I say that for our product or any product. The watt meter is a nice indicator, but don't try to drive your radio based on what you see in your watt meter. That being said, unless you have one that accurately reads peak readings, and one of the only few that I like is the LP100A. I thought I had good peak reading watt meters. I didn't. Then I got the LP100A, and I give Larry Phillips shout out there because it's just an amazing device, and I actually think every shack would have one. And those that have it will agree. And I knew immediately that I was overdriving the amplifier, or trying to, when I was watching my bird meter and stuff. So good for bench work, not for peak envelope stuff. So he samples the RF power. He told me, and I forgot, it's like 1,000 times a second or whatever, and gives you an accurate peak envelope power reading of whatever your radio can do. On the Flex, and I had to shut down Smart SDR because it was dragging this computer down. It hasn't been rebooted in a while. That's the other thing. Reboot all your computers today, just in case it has to run through an update. If you're not using a pro version of Windows, I run Windows Pro on everything because it eliminates those, middle of the contest and you're in a beautiful run. It goes, Windows updating your computer. So, and then on the level meter, you want to make sure you keep that peak about -5. Do not overdrive that audio. Crystal clear, bright audio is what you want today. It'll get out. And Andy, now you mentioned, we'll share the screen here again. And this is a little hard because of the resolution on this screen, but we'll see what we can do. For recording your mic audio and using the onboard voice keyer, that's you set that up in Logger plus Audio Setup. And I'm going to get Peter to teach this one day. And I'm sitting here staring at the wrong screen. So I'm not worried about monitor right now, but for playback, we're going to, I'm set up for SO2R. This doesn't matter. It can be SO1V. Well, actually, it does matter. Make it match your station. Let's assume you're probably a single operator with one VFO or one slice. And my DAX audio, this is the transmit layer. This means I'm going to send this audio to the radio when I push and play back my recorded message, if you've never done that before. You also want to check this button, internal radio codec. This makes sure that DAX is enabled on the transmit stream on Smart SDR or the Maestro or whatever when it's sending the audio. So it disconnects your microphone, it turns DAX on, sends CQ contest, and it turns it off the other way. If you want to record on the fly, I'll be first to admit I've never done this. But on message recording, you want to record from the DAX mic audio. And this is like the Shift F1, Shift F2 messages. I guess I really should try it. But I do what Andy said. I'll record my messages today, and N1MM guys describe where to find that and where to put your files in your operator folder. And then use Audacity because it's free. Record your message with the same microphone if you can. Make it nice and bright. and truncate it as required. So you don't want to send the message and have, a second and a half of dead air, CQ contest, and then, VA3MW dump, and then it unkeys. You want it to unkey reasonably right away. Andy?
Yeah, those are all good tips, Mike, and especially the last one. As you're recording these, and you don't need to go entirely overboard, but be cautious about background noise as well, because if that winds up being built into the file, obviously you're going to remain keyed when you don't expect it. And of course, that's when that multiplier is going to call you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, or it's going to be the multiplier you need, for a new zone or whatever, and he's not going to hear you. Like I said, I do call this a slugfest contest, where power certainly helps, but power is not everything. If the band conditions are good, the power is no big deal, and the good operators will pull you out if they can hear your call sign and it's not muddy. But they'll have no problem hearing you. And we should invite Peter. I mentioned Peter quite a bit, Peter West V3HG. But Peter's generally a QRP operator, and he'll be the first to tell you that it's not all power. It's all on the mic audio, and it's worth spending your time on that. And again, this is one of the features. I'm going to see if I can find the video on setting it up so you can see it. But that's on this screen over here. So Andy, go ahead for a second. Anything else you want to add? And and don't forget to look at the rules as well.
Yeah, that's kind of a good point too, Mike. I mean, from year to year, there are some subtle changes in contests, and I think one of the things I like about the CQWW contest is, as far as exchanges go, it's a pretty straightforward exchange. It's easy to score, and what does that all mean? If you're new to contesting, if you're a newer amateur and you want to get your dip your toe into it, this is a great contest to start with. Sweepstakes is a lot of fun too, but in terms of DXing, I really like this one. If you're a competitor and you've got somebody to work with, such as Mike, and I'll have to declare, this will be the first time Mike and I have worked together in contests. We've both done considerable contesting in the past, but this will be the first time that we've worked together, and it'll be the first time that we've done multi-2 with a flex. So this will be cool. The other thing about CQ Worldwide is you do for multi have a number of options. So read through the rules and decide where you're going to sit in there. Are you going to run low power? Are you going to run high power, or are you going to follow Peter's lead and go down to QRP? Propagation doesn't look too bad this weekend. We're obviously going to see a lot of activity on 20, Mike, during the day. I imagine we're going to see opportunities in 10 and 15 as well through the day. Boy, I can't wait to jump down on 40 once the sun sets here.
Yep, absolutely. So here's the video, by the way, if you want to walk through the full duplex video. And what's it showing here? Oh, yeah, okay. I thought that was me. Well, it is me. But anyway, so it's called Using Full Duplex in Smart SDR. I'll share that and paste it in the link. This is how I do that. And so you guys can easily find it. What else are we going to mention? So our setup, we've got and I'm really fortunate to have some pretty nice equipment. But if you have any 6000 series radio and you want to try a multi-single, there's no reason why you can't operate and then have your buddy log in from his house and operate while you're having breakfast, having a nap, or whatever. And it doesn't have to be fully automated. Say you just wanted to run on 20 meters from noon to 2, just point the beam towards Europe and have him pound away on 20. And we have another video in the same YouTube series that says how my friend said I could use his radio remotely. And I know, Andy, you've watched that, right? It took you how long to get on the air? I actually sent it to him. I said, "Here's the login. Here's the video. Let me know how you make out." It was his early Flex days. He was using my HF6V, and you had some interesting success on that first week.
VP8PJ was probably one of the first ones, and yeah, it was deadly simple. And the relationship that Mike and I have goes back many, many years, 4 decades plus. And Mike's terribly unhelpful. I've got to leave it like that. Go figure it out. If you have problems, read the manual. I'm not answering
I'm
any
not that
questions.
bad. Not at least for him. I know.
He's not that bad, but in fairness, it was quick. And in terms of if you are going to invite someone else to join you, and you know what, I'd encourage you to do that. By all means, you don't need a Maestro. Load up Smart SDR, as Mike said. You don't necessarily have to have automation. Point the beam at Europe and say, have at it. And you know what? Even if you have to mash the logs together later on, if this is the first time, do it and enjoy it. It'll be a lot of fun. And N1MM is a great tool, but you know what? If you're not there with it and you're trying this the first time remotely, get a pad of paper and start writing that stuff down. Make yourself a dupe sheet.
Oh, that'll work. The dupe sheet. That's wow. I don't think I've done one of those in a long time.
I remember spending weekends at work, staying late and dumping things off in the photocopier for just that reason.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we've all done that. So in our case, we've got a 6600 and an amplifier, but we'll skip past the amplifier a minute. I've got a 2x8 antenna switch made by 403A. This I have to laugh at Peter now because, okay, let me interrupt because
I'm not laughing at Peter at all because that's going to be my situation as well.
Yeah, we haven't had that conversation going when I give you the 3 a.m. shift.
Yeah, I've got 2 very hyper alert Pomeranians and a wife that likes to go to bed early. So yeah, the gear will be key.
So anyway, to finish my story, so the 2x8 switch allows the antennas to switch automatically and share things. But one of the cool things, I think, and this blew you away last night when we were testing it, he logged into a computer, remote desktop to a computer. My remote operating, one of the lectures I say is have a local computer. So he's using that one. He just brought up remote desktop and connected to it. I have another laptop here that I installed N1MMN, and the software for the antenna switch, and of course the software for the amplifier. But the cool thing was he could immediately see what was going on with the antenna switch, and we both have the same GUI on 2 different computers, so there's no contention. He goes, I can't go to 180 or 160 because Mike's got the 160 antenna because he's doing something there. And then you can add things like FR stack, which gives you even more visibility into the station. And this is why Flex is so happy to get away from the archaic, I'm going to be blunt here, archaic RS-232 way to communicate with the radio. And why is it not all IP or LAN based? Because it just generally works. So, by the way, here's the video for how to use your friend's 6000 series radio remotely. So I think it works, and I get some questions on it, but generally that's the idea. Let's see. So what did we miss, Andy? Anything? We probably missed a ton of things.
I think a couple of things. If you are using contesting software or logging software, to your point earlier, make sure the country files are all updated. And by the same token, just one more time, if you're using PC, Windows in particular, make sure those updates are all done before you get started. And there's Thursday night. Tonight's Thursday night. Test this stuff out. Double check your audio, and you know what? Nothing wrong, Mike. I'll have to disagree with you. 6 o'clock. No reason why you can't go out Friday night and throw another wire up.
Okay, that's true too.
And if it's raining or snowing, even better, right?
Yeah, last night we were on the phone with my other contesting partner, Ken, VA3SK, and he's in Northern Ontario. And I remember having to go up there on Thursdays. So we had all day Friday to get ready and spending literally most of Friday getting two computers to work together on two stations and get the networking working and N1MM up to date. And we did this for years. And finally I said, I will not do this on Friday anymore, because the time the contest started, I was exhausted. So I'm coming up the weekend before. It's a 3-hour drive or 4-hour drive to near North Bay. And now I don't have this problem anymore. But Peter just mentioned to talk about calling or tail ending. Andy?
Yeah, in Peter's situation, running QRP, you need every advantage that you can get against the big guns. So, one of the things I used to marvel at was how effective tail ending is. So somebody else is just closing off or in the midst of the queue. As soon as they turn it back to the original station, dump your call sign in there.
Complete call sign.
Yes, no last two, no last three, full call sign. It's the operator at the other end, the opportunity to get that stuff queued up for the exchange. Highly efficient. And if you are encountering a station that's on a run, that's certainly welcome, and it's certainly an effective way to help that station and yourself if you are running lower power.
Yeah, and Peter, yes or no?
Exactly. Do you necessarily want to sign QRP, VA3CW QRP? Where does that leave me in terms of garnering some attention, Mike?
Yeah, not at all. We do know a guy who was a West Coast guy that if you called QRP, he'd go, oh, okay, and he'd turn the amp off and dial the radio back to 5 watts and call you back. Especially if it was slow or anyway. So
Peter, should we sign QRO? Do you think that'll get some attention?
There are ways to stack up memories and stuff, but let's as you get to play with it. This is also a good time, by the way, to just work some new DX. If you're looking for a specific country, you want to increase your country count, your state count, or anything special, they'll probably be there. And in today's COVID days, I expect it's going to be rush hour for the weekend, because I think we're going to have more operators than any.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Mike. A couple of good points there in terms of new DX. You're going to see a lot of activations throughout this weekend, so take advantage of that. If you're not into contesting, I mean, at least hop on, give it a try, and if it's not your cup of tea, well, guess what? We've got some work bands too, and they'll no doubt be more active than ever. The final courtesy in terms of any QSO is QSL, and I think Mike and I would both agree on this one. Whether you choose Logbook of the World, or you're doing something on QRZ, electronic QSLs, paper, take a moment at the end of the contest, and if you do, for example, use Logbook of the World, take that ADIF, dump it up on there, and help somebody else in terms of their pursuit of a new country, new state, what have you. I think that's a great courtesy.
Yeah, I have one more thing to show.
Show it.
So,
Mike.
What is your exchange? So the exchange is 5.9. And let's not go down but he really wasn't 5.9. Just it's 5.9. Okay. I get both sides of the argument. And your zone. So depending where you are in the world, and if you hear a guy calling CQ, or he works the guy before and he's in zone 32, it was probably our friend Kevin way down here in New Zealand. So zone 32 is a fun one to get. So these are your zone numbers. So big chunk of North America is in zone 4. Over here's in zone 5. Our good friend Yuri, actually, I think he flew this time, Andy. He's up here in zone 2. He's like right there. And zone 2 is pretty rare. So if you hear zone 2, 40, of course, Iceland and Greenland. So you will be signing with your zone. 14 covers most of Europe, 15 the other half.
So Mike, one thing, and this is more of a personal preference for me. In that exchange, I would prefer to say 5904 as opposed to 594.
Yes.
The vast majority of these exchanges are going to be 2 digits. So if I give 2 digits, 0 and 4, you have a higher confidence as someone receiving that it is 04 and not 14.
Yep, absolutely. Because they've got to type it in as 04. And that's why the same reason that you want to give your entire call sign. Because if you say, Andy calls me, says CW, you want to work CW? Because I'm a bit of an annoying person. No, but then he's got to back tab 2 characters. And I know this sounds anal, but for a run station guy, it's boom, it's all about numbers. So
yeah, it's a wipe and start again, or it's a back tab, or you know what, even worse, I mangle it as I adjust it.
Right. There's 2 other things that I wanted to mention too. So Peter talked about tail ending. The opposite works as well, because I call QRZ and the whole world gives their call sign. Take a deep breath and punt out your call sign, and that works really well, because the stations copying don't always go for the first call they hear. They go for the first complete or easy to copy station they can hear.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. And this holds true particularly in sideband contests. Your ability to narrow things down in CW is completely different than the mess that you're going to hear when that first pile responds.
Okay, that's all I got, I think, today. Andy, anything else?
Nothing else. Hey, Peter, that was great of you to send along a few questions and suggestions. Thanks for doing that. Makes for a little more interactive and interesting discussion, and gets me thinking about a couple of things too for this weekend, Mike.
Okay, so have some rest, eat well, stand up. Actually, I might drag my stand-up desk out here and operate, because I think that's going to be better than sitting for long periods of time. And because I do get
some firewood there, Mike.
Yep. We have the fireplace going.
Friday's supposed to be warm, but the rest of the weekend it's a little questionable. So
I thought I heard on e-meters it was going below freezing, so I may have to do something. And Kevin, thanks for the comments. And hopefully, you know what? Have fun. Drag someone else into the shack. You don't have to be a single operator. Do a multi-single if you want to just introduce some Boy Scouts or your neighbor even. Your neighbor could operate it as long as you're in the shack. You're legally licensed to do that. They take that cautiously because I've forgotten, but I know I'm okay to do it because I'm an advanced amateur. So yes, follow the laws of your country, because that's why they test us on it. So everybody, 73, good luck, and say hi. I apologize if I sound brain dead and it's 2:00 in the morning, but I'll say hi back, and feel free to drop me an email later and say, hey, I worked you. We'd love to hear from it. So, and Andy both.
7-3. Good luck in the contest. Good DX, and we'll look forward to catching you on the bands this weekend. Take care, guys.
73.
Bye-bye.